Welcome to India.
Welcome to India. Namaste.
Namaste.
Okay, so thank you for joining us today. So we'll start with the interview session. My name is Shreya. So it's spelled as SHRIYA, Shreya. And I'm the co-founder for the Early Birds Club. And I welcome you on board today for your precious time and consideration. Okay, so let's start with it. I'll just start with introducing myself and how this entire idea of the Early Birds Club had started last year during the lockdown, where India was under a lockdown. So, the mind gets creative when often we are sitting idle. It's the most that we think about. So, me and Saikat, we were in a discussion that, how our fellow college mates, they do not get a chance to actually represent themselves on a big screen, or sometimes the ideas are only constrained to the friend circle where we actually discuss our big ideas, but we do not have the courage or the confidence to take it out of the room or to present it to someone. So we thought, why not create a platform for such people, for our fellow batchmate who actually have an idea and they want to execute it. Why not support each other? It would be kind of a barter system wherein I would give some knowledge, I would take in some wisdom, and it would work that way. So to keep the ball rolling, so let's start with the interview. This is the Early Birds Club, and I'm so glad that I got to speak with you. I have been watching your videos back to back, and all those videos have been incredibly inspiring. And I'm sure the people who have a lot to take away from you when they move out of the room. So by the end of the session today also.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Most welcome. And actually you are doing for the greater good in the society. You are actually giving so many people to get a chance to work on themselves, which we often,
thank you.
We are not able to do. So thank you so much. And how do you spell your name? I do not want to set on the wrong foot, but how do you spell your name?
Yeah, that's a good question. Asbjorn. Asbjorn. It's a very common name here in Scandinavia. Asbjorn, Björn Borg, the famous tennis player.
Okay.
He has underwear trade, and it's Borg. It's Björn, like in Björn Borg. Yeah, it's a very bad name to. I went to the States in high school as a senior, and it's not a good name to go and live with in California starting in high school, because they go, "What's your name? Asbjorn?" Like one S or two S's, like in fat ass or like in asshole. And then I was like in fat ass.
Yeah, so you must be getting a lot of
remember
questions.
My name.
Okay, I think this would be the great way to remember your name. I would actually go back to your childhood memories and then I will dig into it. And then I'll remember, yes, what's the most difficult name for me to pronounce? That would be Asbjorn, right? So
Asbjorn. Björn.
Asbjorn. Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
so,
that's good. That's good. You're doing good.
Okay, thank you. I'm still learning, and by the end of the session, I'm sure I'll pick up the speed. So I would like to know firstly, I think many people must have asked you the question when you start your classes with or start mentoring them. How do you start your journey? Like if you go way back when you started your journey, how do you actually start it, and why did you thought that you would pick this up as a profession and do it in a daily way?
Very good question, and I was very much bullied in elementary school, and I was bullied so hard that I was hospitalized several times. So when I started high school here in Scandinavia, Denmark, I was absent a lot. I didn't care for school anymore. So my parents, as a last chance, they sent me to high school in California as a senior, thinking that may be better there, that they don't bully so much as they did here in Denmark. And it was much better.
Okay.
I started senior in high school, and I remember we had to select some voluntary classes, and one of them was speech. And I was standing with this long ballot, like 150 classes, and I fell upon speech. And I went over to the information booth. We were standing in this outside in the mountains, Sierra Nevada mountains, beautiful campus in this Nevada Union High School, huge pine trees, and the sun was burning hot. It was a beautiful nature. And I went over to the information. What is speech? And she said, you learn how to talk. But I know how to talk. No, you learn how to talk from a stage. And that captured me right away. And I signed up for speech. And that really changed my life, because for the first time I realized there was something that I was good at in books, about school. Because in a few weeks, they compete all the time over there in California, in high school and college, they compete. And I think only 3 weeks went by and we had to compete in a impromptu speech contest, and you had to lie. You got 5 minutes to prepare, and then I have to do a speech of 6 minutes, and it was to become the liar of the year. And I think there was 4 classes, public speaking classes, and I won. And I realized, whoa, I've never won anything before, and I never got good grades in school, and I, of course, got a very good grade because I won. And the teacher, the coach, Mr. Lon Brand, came over to me and he said, this is your thing. This is your thing, Asbjørn. You got to work on this because you are good. Everybody has their thing. Everybody has a thing that they are good at. Everybody, and maybe you know, maybe you don't, but this is your thing. You got to go for those competitions. You got to really go for this race. Do it all the way. So he, said, I will drive you around. There's a lot of competition, Rotary clubs, Lions clubs, Toastmasters clubs, college. I went over there again and did college level. And 8 months later, maybe 9, I don't remember, within the same year, I was standing in Sacramento, the capital, looking down on 600 businessmen and politicians in this impromptu speech contest. And you draw, it's impromptu, it's spontaneous. So you draw a subject, you don't have no idea what it is. And I was, the subject that I draw was ecological pig production. Ecological con non-ecological. And I'm lucky, my uncle has his own pig production. He's a farmer. So I went into the library. You have no internet, no nothing. You only have books, and you have 6 minutes to do this. 6 minutes to prepare this 5-minute talk. And I went out on that stage and I rocked it, and I won. So that's I won California League in public speaking. Yeah, that year.
Great.
As a high school student, and I went on to college and did it also in college.
So
and that's been my big thing since.
So what they say, that the hardest failures give you the biggest opportunities in life.
Yeah.
But only thing is that acceptance comes hand to hand in it. Like if I'm able to accept my failure, I would actually move ahead in the direction of success. But in today's generation, I am sure you must be dealing with a lot of students and fellow mates who ask you, who come for suggestions with you, but it's very hard for them to accept that, at some point of time, the person we are looking across the screen, the person who is actually mentoring us, had felt like he has been bullied, had felt that he has been going through a lot of hardship, but you never gave up. I think that's the motto, never giving up, at least giving it one try, one shot.
Yeah, and also I do motivation talks, motivation speaker. And that's one of the things that I talk about. Find your thing, go out there, and maybe you already have it, but try to live off what your passion is now. Your thing, whatever makes time go very fast, whatever makes your day go very fast. And I don't care if it is cutting down trees. I don't care if it is putting an engine together. I don't care whatever it is, whatever, like if you go to the library or if you go into the bookstore, what section do you go for first? If you go to the cartoon section, maybe you drawing is your thing. Being creative is your thing. If you go to the philosophy section, that's my section. I love philosophy and public speaking, of course, but that's also my thing. And I go straight for the philosophy section at the bookstore. Now, try to test yourself out to see if you haven't found your thing, your passion. Go there. Go on my homepage. I made 14 questions how to find your passion. It's all there for you. It's all free. Go to my homepage and print that questionnaire out. 14 questions how to find your passion, and turn off everything and go and sit underneath that tree and fill it out. Use a few hours and really think about those 14 questions, because that is so important in life to find your thing, because that's gonna make you much happier. That's gonna give you much more energy. That's gonna give you a much richer life than doing a work that maybe your parents wanted you to do, or taking an education that maybe your dad wants you to do. That may be not your dream of an education. Maybe you want to be cartoonist. So that's really a major thing for me when I go out talking is I talk at high schools, colleges, different schools. I do that talk, find your thing.
I feel that so I'm an educationist by profession, and I meet these children every day. And most of the children at the age of 10 or 12, they do not know actually what they want to do in life. And at the age of 16 and 18, they have already made a decision what their parents have expected them to do in the near future. But I think this is what they actually need to look at. They need to find their own passion and get a hold of it. I don't think that skill-based jobs are there right now. None of the jobs ask you for a degree. A singer, he's not required to. No one asks him, are you a 10th grade fail, or you have passed high school, you have made it to college. If you have talent and if you have a passion for it, I think it does the job for you for your entire life. At least you would be happy. You will be at mental peace. Right. So going ahead, so I saw that you are a very good storyteller, and when you pick up a topic, you start revolving it around a story. And when you do so, people are actually gazing at you, they are gazing their eyes at you, and they are actually trying to understand the gist of it. And at the end, bang on, there is a motivation which lies underneath the bottom line of the story. So how do you feel that in every profession, I think, you need to sell something? If I am a salesperson, if I need to sell a packet of biscuits to you, I would come to your doorstep and I would tell you how good the biscuits or the cookies are. If I am a person who needs to sell his own idea to you as an entrepreneur, budding entrepreneur, to the investors, they would also require to make a presentation on it. So how much would you give the weightage to storytelling in a presentation for any person?
Okay, let me give you an example. I teach scientists to present their science, to pitch their own science. And I always start with a claim. Now, you do your research for a reason, for a personal reason. I have that claim that you researched in this subject for personal, and I've never been mistaken. So let's take, for example, diabetes, researchers in diabetes. Now, so many that does this research in diabetes has a grandmother or mother that is diabetic. My own mother is and when my granddad was. And give me that story. Give me that story of your granddad that didn't become very old. He dies when he was 68 because of his diabetes. And my mother that has been plagued all her life with insulin, ups and downs, and insulin shock. And just for her getting the NovoPen, so she could much better control her insulin level, was such a relief. Give me that story of you inventing that NovoPen. that you do this science, or even insulin survival, so you don't have to cool it down, but it can survive in the desert, in the heat. That's also a research product that made it survive there. Give me that story, so all persons, no matter if they have a refrigerator or not, they can still have a functional insulin. Give me that story. Let me feel that happiness when you invented that novel pen, or cancer research. I do a lot of PhD conferences for doctors that has to present their PhD. And they always have a personal reason for doing the science. I never met that they couldn't, in their memory, give me a story, a personal story that affects you, that makes you work 16 hours a day, trying to obtain this, to make it goal, to be successful as a researcher. So now, make me feel, okay? I love to teach PhD scientists how to present your science, the scientific pitch. That's the tool I invented, because it is such a relievement for them that they fear that they have 6 minutes to pitch the science. They go to the Welfare Trust Foundation in Boston, they go to Bill Gates Foundation in Boston, and they have 6 minutes. Now, they are so anxious not to have the whole story told. They are so anxious to bore the audience. Put it into the fight. Let me feel the fight. Let me feel the challenge. Let me feel the confrontation that you have had experience in your science, because they all have been standing at the last minute all 3 nights in a row, and it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work. Give me that excitement, and suddenly it worked. Suddenly they succeeded. And it's so funny, because they all did not know that story was so important. To get personal, it described the fight, described the victory, the feeling that finally the victory, the research succeeded, and the claim that they had, the thought that they had, was real, and it could be done. Now, I teach them how to do it in 6 minutes. I teach them how to do it, pitch their science in 3 minutes, and I teach them how to do it in 1 minute. Now, this is so funny, because when they have been out on stage, always there's 30 doctors, MDs, PhD, and they always last 3 or 6 hours this workshop, and they go to stage. I teach them the tools, and they go into groups first, and then they do it together, 2-on-2 on stage, and they ended up doing only 1 minute, only 1. So they pitched their science in just 1 minute, and they had no idea that they could do it, and they can pitch their science in 1 minute and get the essential, and they can still make the story. They can still make the story, tell the story. What is the basic? The very neat basic is the struggle and there's resolution. Me doing the struggle and having the victory. Make me feel. Now, if you want the whole frame, because your brain is wired for storytelling. If you want people never to forget what you said, if you want to really sell something, you got to do the 5 ingredients in the storytelling frame. The main character, the opponent, the helping assistant, the fight, and the resolution, victory. Resolution, victory. Okay, Batman, the main character, the opponent, the Joker. Yes, the helping assistant, Robin. The fight, the Earth. They're fighting for the victory of the Earth, and they always succeed over the Joker. And the victory, they save the Earth. Remembered by the Batman, Robin, Joker movie. That is Kendall Haven. He did a neuroscience project ordered by the American government, by Obama himself, in 2012. Kendall, Kendall, Kendall Haven. Go to YouTube he presents his science in 22 minutes. You just write Kindlehaven, Stanford. Then you have this marvelous, groundbreaking neuroscience, your brain on story. How and why are we geared? Are we hardwired for storytelling? Because we are. That is now the amazing thing about this neuroscience project by Kindlehaven, Your Brain on Story, is it called? Is that if we don't give the information via a storytelling shape, a storytelling form, the Batman Robin, the brain is gonna do it by its own. Listen up now. Let me try you out. Two persons are talking. Example, we're gonna role play.
Okay.
One person, now I want you to say out loud what you think. Two persons are talking together. One is saying, where is Kelly? Why she's not here? The other person is answering, I just saw John's car parked outside Kelly's house. I say no more. What are you thinking?
I'm thinking that John is Kelly's husband and she's getting ready to go out somewhere with her husband. And these two friends are standing somewhere waiting for her.
That's because you're from India. Here in Scandinavia, they all think that Kelly is having an affair with John. Yeah. Oh. So, but now you are maybe not having so many affairs in India, but it's a problem here in Scandinavia. Okay, so just the fact you don't know if John is married to Kelly, you don't know.
Yes.
What you are, but your brain is making a story right away. You see how the brain is automatically making a logic in the story, making a story with a logic sense. And you just did. You thought that Kelly is married to John. He's not. He's not married to Kelly. John is not married to Kelly. Now I'm working on. What are they then? Then are they having? So we can very easily spread rumors by. That's how rumors start. We don't really know for sure who is Kelly and what are their relationship, but the brain will make it. So that is so important to understand that fact when you deliver information. Give the audience a main character if you can. Give them an opponent in the story, if you can. Give them the struggle and give them the solution. Then they really listen and they will not invent their own information.
That's amazing. Means I can imagine how many people might have left your room after listening this art of storytelling and felt that, I can do it. Means until this point of time, I did not realize I could actually dig in a story. I always felt that, stories only happen in movies or series, whatever we are watching on the screen. But I can tell my own story that I couldn't realize, but you made it happen in like 5 minutes. So that's amazing.
So let me give you a story. But before I give you the story, remember this: the concept of transportation. The more you can make people see what you see, the more you can make people smell what you smell, the more you can make people hear what you hear, and the more you can make people feel what you feel. The more you can transport the audience into your story. The concept of transportation, that's a Hollywood concept. A Hollywood concept. It's called the concept of transportation. You want to transport your audience into your story. Make me feel, make me see, make me smell, make me hear whatever the main character is seeing and feeling and hearing. The more you can do that, and that's the basic, the foundation of the concept of transportation is details. It was a spring day. It was one of those very spring days here in Scandinavia, that very spring day when the temperature rises those 10 degrees Celsius in just 3 hours, and I was so happy. I was so happy, not only because the birds were singing, not only because it was that first spring day, but because it was my first ever paycheck. Just graduated from my master at the University of Copenhagen, and I had today the money in the bank. I never had so much money before. And I just told my buddies, it's going to happen tonight, you guys. We're going to play pool, and we're going to hammer those beers down, and I'm going to pay beers, pizza. We're going to party all night long because we're going to celebrate my first pay. Then my phone rang. Right there on the bike path. Right there on my bike when the sun was shining and the birds were singing. And you know that feeling? Before you look at the phone, that you can feel that you don't answer this call. Do not answer this call. This call is going to ruin your day. And I looked down on the phone, and it was my mother. And I always answer my mother. Because my mother is an important thing in my life. And I press, and she was screaming, "Oh my God, your dad is gone right here. He has died. He's on the way. He's ambulance. You gotta come home now." My mom and dad, they met each other. My mom was 15 and my dad was 21. They had not been apart since. Now, what she was trying to scream to tell was that my dad had a stroke, his heart has stopped, but they electrocuted and they make it start, and he was on the way to the hospital in the chopper. And she said, you gotta come home now, and we gotta go to the hospital. My first thought was, am I gonna lose my wonderful dad on this very spring day? On this wonderful spring day, am I gonna lose my dad? I just told you a story now. I just told you a personal story. I just told you a real story. And I gave you my feeling. Now, you have two questions inside you. I connected with you because you heard about my dad and my mom. And I connected with you because I opened up. I showed vulnerability. Now, the other question you have is, did my dad survive or not?
Yes.
And your brain is not going to stop until I answer that question. And I want you to hang on here. So I'll first answer that question at the end of this session. That's called a cliffhanger. Okay. In your personal storytelling, make me feel the power of vulnerability. One of the greatest TED Talks ever done in 2012. B.B. Brené Brown, professor in psychology. I think it's almost 100 million views now. Write that down. B.B. TED Talk B.B. by Brené Brown. It's called The Power of Vulnerability. Make me feel. Open that heart up to your listener, to your audience, and they will listen. Dare to show vulnerability, because that's a strength. That is a strength to open up like I just did, and show your feelings. If you do that in your storytelling, in your personal storytelling, people cannot help listening, and they cannot help remembering what you are saying.
Brilliant. So, it has I'll just not a personal experience, but then professionally, at most of the time when I was switching careers and I was giving interviews, the interviewer used to ask me that, what was the lowest point in your life? And I would always leave the table by giving them an answer which would not give them the full information, of course, but they would actually feel connected that actually I lost something in my life. So, but yes, I feel that if I would have left the table with that last note by telling them the whole story, they would have been able to connect with me better, in a better way. But yes, I did not give myself a chance to expose my vulnerability to them. And it's often difficult because for many people, it's often difficult to open up, especially people who are introvert. They do not want to talk much, but they want to still give out what wisdom they have in very few words. So it's very difficult to put two to two together and tell a story to someone. So I'm sure you must have had many such students of yours who find it very difficult to speak up in the classroom.
Yes. Yeah.
So how do you actually tackle with them? How do you actually inspire them that, they should actually give themselves a chance to open up?
Very good question. Thank you. My claim is that everybody has a good story, and everybody has a story that they want to tell, that they have the need to tell. Now, everybody doesn't have the guts, the guts to tell the story, but everybody has a story that they want to tell. Now, one of the main goals in my workshop is to find people's story and to give them the courage to tell their story. Because deep inside ourselves, we really want to open up. Deep inside ourselves, we want to connect. And deep inside ourselves, we know that we connect by showing vulnerability. Unconsciously, we know it. Because we do it to our friends. When your childhood friends, you all have a good friend. You all have a very good friend that you can just call up and say, oh my God, and you there's no filter. That's vulnerability. Oh, he broke up with me, she broke up with me, I feel so bad, come over and have some comfort. And that friend, that good friend that you always call when you feel bad, I want that friend to be your audience. And my claim is that can be your audience, because nobody is going to make a fool out of you if you have the courage to show vulnerability, to show personal vulnerability. Nobody, it's the exact opposite is going to happen. The exact opposite, that they are going to think that you are brave. Listen to Brené Brown's TED Talk, and you can feel it works. Now, Brené Brown has been doing research and science in vulnerability, guilt, and shame for years. She's a professor in psychology at the University of Texas. She has been giving talks for years on vulnerability. And if you don't have the guts to show vulnerability to a stranger, you have a challenge with shame. There's something that you are shamed about, and you don't need to be shamed about anything. To feel shamed about anything. You don't need to feel ashamed about anything. That's her claim. But if you don't have the guts to show that vulnerability, you should work on it, because there is an aspect you get a richer life if you as a speaker, if you as a teacher, if you as a person in your conversations have the guts to show vulnerability. Now, there is some people that cannot handle it. And they maybe, it's very, very few, but they maybe will condemn you. They will say their opinion, maybe on YouTube. I haven't tried that. I've been loading hundreds of videos in Danish and in English on my YouTube, and nobody has ever done that to me, but Brené Brown has tried it, and she has this very good saying that she does in another talk. She explains in another talk, and that is, if you have not tried to be there on the stage with me, to be also up on that stage, I will not listen to your opinion. You can have an opinion about my talk, about my stories, but if you have not tried to be on that stage and telling your own personal stories and how it is, I will not listen to your opinion. That's how you handle inside yourself your critics, because that is what people fear the most when I teach, when I coach TED talkers and TEDx talkers, TEDx talkers. That is, if you can get rid of that fear, you can be such an awesome public speaker. everybody can learn to get rid of that fear. That fear comes from doubt, that you have a doubt in yourself. And that doubt comes because you think it's all about you when you go on that stage and do a public speak, do a presentation. And it's not about you. And they don't care about you, how you look and what you say. You have to make it about the audience. It's all about the audience. You have to think about, how do I deliver my message so they understand it? How do I make them feel so they will remember what I say? How do I tell stories so it becomes exciting for them? It's not about your clothes, your shirt, your how you talk and what you do. It's about you should only care for the audience. Make them laugh, make them feel, make them smile, bring them on stage, and forget about yourself. And how do you do that? You practice, practice, practice. You memorize your talk. I'll show you in a moment how you memorize your talk. You film yourself. You have your friends coming over and do the presentation for your friends, the people you love. Make them tell their opinion about the presentation. Ask them, do you understand my message? Do you understand the core from it? Do I make myself clear? And then see yourself on video, take yourself on video, take yourself and repeat, rehearse. Now, still, you're going to have that fear.
Yes.
Of when you go on that stage and you turn on that mic, blank out. In Danish, we say they have the expression at gå i sort, to go in black. Cannot remember anything. That's where your body-mind connection comes in. Before I do my keynote speak, my keynote, the big keynotes addresses that I do in conferences, I always go down in the basement because I have fear too. And you work down your cortisol, your stress hormone cortisol and your stress hormone adrenaline. And you come do it with me. I cannot stand up because I'm in my summer house and I didn't bring my stand-up holder. So anyway, this is the power pose. Amy Cuddy, the professor in psychology, did a TED talk about the power pose. You stand like this with your arms up in a victory pose. Stand like that for 2 minutes. You can stand up now, do it with me. And you breathe long and slow. Just this pose shows, when you go like this, you have nothing to fear. You tell your Stone Age brain, your reptile brain, that the lion is not hunting you anymore. And when you breathe long and slow, your cortisol and your adrenaline will go down. Do that for 2 minutes. And also I do in my workshop, I do the power pose with a scream. And I want when people scream, and they do it every time a group of 5 goes up on stage, we scream with the power pose. I want people to think about victory and how good they are and how much success this presentation is gonna get, it's gonna be. So I don't want to scream so loud now, but you can see it on my YouTube videos. We scream, and I make people think about victory. That works. I know some science, there's 2 camps here. I know some neuroscience say it doesn't, but there's another part of neuroscience that does say it works. But it works for me and it works for my clients every time it works. The funny thing is, if I do a workshop in a very serious environment, lawyers, also doctors that don't know each other, stuff, within 2-3 minutes, I have them scream, I have them scream the power pose with a scream. Do the power pose with a scream. And they all start laughing. It can be dead silence, and they can be very seriously, and they're tired from all the long day of work. It's normally 5 o'clock break. It makes them awake and it makes them laugh, and they crack down from laughing. And then I start the workshop. Then I start to give the tools. I start to give them the speaking house. It's a tool that I invented. Can I show you the speaking house? Is that okay with you?
Yes, yes, absolutely.
It's a simple drawing of a house. Can you see this drawing? No, you can't, huh?
Yes,
That's
yes,
the house?
now I can see it.
Okay, now this is the door. This is the windows.
Yes.
Door, windows. This is a table with a book. Now, this is the foundation of the house. That's MIMO. Foundations of every talk is memorization. I want you to use the memorization method called LOCI. L-O-C-I. LOCI. That's over 2,000 years old. It's Cicero. The LOCI method. We can't talk about that. We don't have the time. But the door is the start. Imagine that the audience is sitting inside the house and you got to kick that door into the house open. So you want to start with a hook. You want to start with, like, when I talk to lawyers, very serious people, and they're very busy with being on the phone and on the computer, I always start with an explosion. I parachute myself in, it's called. And I start with, I have a dream, very loud. I have a dream that one day on residents of Georgia, sons of former slaves and sons of former slave owners will join together at the table of, and I do it very loud. And you should see the lawyers. And they put down the phone and they put down the computer. And then I do one verse more. I have a dream that one day my 4 little kids will not be condemned by the color of the skin, but judged by the content of the character. And then I do a little bit of Obama. So I say to them tonight, we don't have a white America. We don't have a black America. We have a United States of America. And I ask them tonight, can we unite? Yes, we can. Yes, we can. And I got the audience. They are just, what is going on? And that's if they're very tired or very busy with something else, I always use that start. And then I go, welcome to storytelling. This is funny. And this is interesting. Martin Luther King, just an example. After each, I have a dream. What comes there? He says the sentence, I have a dream. And now I have a question for you. What comes now? I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, sons of former slaves and sons of former slave owners will join together at the table of brotherhood. What was that?
It was a dream which you have fantasized about?
What was that? He does it after every sentence, I have a dream. He says 7 times, I have a dream. And then he comes with a...
He comes with a story, a background story about it.
He comes with a short story. It's a story. It's a story. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, see the red hills? Make me feel, make me see, make me, okay? On the red hills of Georgia, sons of former slaves and sons of former slave owners, that's a conflict. They hate each other. That they did at that time. You know, through the years, they are not friends. They will join together at the table of brotherhood. So you have conflict and you have a solution. So he frames in the room where the red hills of Georgia. What conflict? Maybe, friends, enemies are meeting enemies.
Enemies are there, they are at conflict.
Yes, and they
will join hands for brotherhood. Yes.
Yes, that's the solution. Okay, and he does that 7 times. Obama does the same thing. We don't have a white America and a black America. No, we don't.
Conflict.
We have a United States of America. Conflict, solution. Conflict, solution. Conflict, describe the conflict, give me the solution. We have a United States of America. That's the solution. No?
Brilliant.
Yeah. That's why the Martin Luther King I Have a Dream is again and again voted as the best talk that's ever been given in history. He does that right after I Have a Dream, and he does that right after a lot of other sentences that he is keeping repeating. Like he says, we have had enough. And then he repeats a short story. We have had enough. He repeats a small story. So he does that throughout his talk. Go and listen to I Have a Dream. And you will see a lot of small stories being created. And that's why we connect. We feel. He makes us feel. I will even come with a claim. The last talk that Martin Luther King ever did. I've been to the mountaintop. The last talk, go to YouTube and write, I've been to the mountaintop, and you're gonna need those Kleenex. If I feel like crying, I just see that talk. I have that claim that's even better. His very last talk, I've been to the mountaintop, is even better than I Have a Dream. I think so, but it's my personal opinion. Yeah, but write down if you hear that talk on YouTube. It's on YouTube. I've been to the mountaintop. Make a mark every time that Martin Luther King makes you feel. Just boom, boom, and you will see that every time he makes you feel, he's telling a short story. That's when he goes into your heart. Make me feel.
I'm spellbound. I see you wear specs. I also wear specs, and I have a very high power. And without specs, yes, the world is blurry.
I use specs.
And I see the world blurry. So back when I was in high school, I was going through a very tough time health-wise, and I was on a lot of medications. And when I came back, when I made a comeback in the school, since before that incident in my life, I was very good in all co-curricular activities. I used to dance, I used to do theaters, I used to do debate, impromptu speeches, and I always used to host the event in my school. So I am from a missionary school. And then when I had a comeback after my high school, after that entire episode of medical history, I found it very difficult to go on the stage and face the audience. It was somewhat a medical effect. But what I used to do, I used to take off my specs and keep it somewhere. And then I used to go to the stage because the stage, the audience were all blurry. I couldn't see them. Yes. And my world was all blurry. And then I used to make a very confident, and I did it 2 to 3 times.
That's a wonderful trick.
Yes, and there was one teacher who came to me. She noticed that 2 to 3 times I do it. She knew that without my specs, I could not see anything. So she called me and she asked me that, Shreya, how do you manage on the stage without the specs? I said it makes things easier for me. I have this newfound love for stage fear where I am not able to face the audience, and I start stuttering whenever I see the audience. So she told me 2 things that, she wanted to know 2 things from me, which I couldn't answer, but I want to know from you, that actually it's lack of motivation. I don't know, it was lack of motivation, or I thought I didn't have the right skills to go on the stage and face the audience. Which one of these you get the most from your students or clients?
Whoa. Yeah, I read that question. I never experienced it's the lack of motivation. They have the motivation when you make people get rid of their fear. The motivation comes right away when people realize that there's nothing to fear. It's wonderful to get on that stage. It's wonderful to get on that stage and tell your story, your personal story. It's wonderful. People love it. And people get all exalted about it, high about it, manning about it after they did it and have done it. Always. So the motivation is there's a lot of motivation behind the fear. So my finest task is to make people not be fearful. That's my finest task. Yeah.
And when you are in a room full of there are a student is there in your classroom. Suppose I am a student, take me as a student, and I'm there to learn from you. And when do you actually know that he has been actually, now the task is complete, now your task is complete?
I always tell some personal stories and some very deepful, and when I see the tears in people's eyes, I know I can make the whole room get teared up, because like our parents are the ones we love the most, and losing our parents is and the fear of losing our parents, if you can press that button, a lot of people are gonna have a hard time by not crying.
True.
I put a workshop out on my YouTube where you can see the whole room almost. You can see them crying because I have several cameras. So, and they are filming the audience too. It's on one of my workshops on my YouTube. Do I do that on purpose? Yes, I do. I do that on purpose. Do I lie? No. I'm just opening up. So my father didn't die. This is 10 years ago. He had that stroke. And when I thought he was going to die that day, that very spring day, I suddenly remembered my uncle in Canada. He lives in Canada. And we drove from Mitchell to Toronto. And my uncle just lost his parents. And I went over there to visit him. And we drove in the car. I remember looking up at the fields, very flat fields there in Canada. And my uncle Fred, he said, "Do not say to a tombstone." I will say, "What, Fred? What do you mean? Say what?" "Say that you love your parents. Do not have to say it to the tombstone. Tell it to them why they are alive. If you love them, you gotta say it why they are alive. It's not good, like me, to have to say it to a tombstone." And I remember that right there, that very spring day. In those hours, I thought maybe I lost my father. I promised myself that I was gonna call my parents up every day. It's a love call. It has got a name. "Mom and Dad, yeah, I'm busy today. I just want to say I love you." And I've been doing that for 10 years. I've been calling up my parents for 10 years. "Mom and Dad, I love you." Because I don't want to say that to a tombstone. My dad he's getting very old and he has Parkinson. And I don't know, but I visit him every day on the convalescent home. Every day I bike by, I took them here to Copenhagen and put them in a convalescent home. They are both there in the same hallway. And I visit them every day, going to work or coming from work. Yeah. That's the end of that story. Now you are thinking about your parents. Now you are thinking about, do I tell my parents enough that I love them?
Yes.
And you are always going to remember my story. And maybe you too are going to start calling your parents every day and tell them that you love them if you do.
Yes. So, okay. So, I actually had to say my father love you note on his tombstone because I lost my father almost 15 years back. And I had to say, but since that day, yes, I got the same feeling that, I could have said love you more. Today I see on the social media everyone is expressing their love for their parents on a Mother's Day, on a Father's Day, but how much do we do that on a daily basis? Whether it's not a celebration, whether it's not a festivity, how often do we actually say our parents on their face? My grandmother or my mother, they are not on a social media, but then I need to pick up the phone and actually call them and tell them that I love them. So yes, that's it. So
gonna finish up the house. The windows, the two windows, that's the eye contact. Now it's 9 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1,500 hours o'clock. That's how you want to look around the room. And then the eye contact, the two windows, 1 cent length at each person, 1 cent length at each person, 1 cent length at each person. one thing at each person. That's how you want to do the eye contact. The book on the table is storytelling. That's the most important thing. The walls that connects the foundation with the roof. The walls are the three ways you connect with your audience. You can put a cliffhanger question, a question that you will never answer. You can put a question where you expect an answer. That's why you're gonna have to raise your hand. And you can just put questions and answering them yourself. That's the three different questions that you always want to put at least 2 or 3 a minute when you do a talk to your audience. You want to reconnect with your audience, or they're going to be bored. Make people answer the question with a hand. Put those questions, yes or no questions, and make them answer with raising their hands. If you don't raise their hand, the audience will not raise their hand. You are the motor. You're the motor for the connection. Being a public speaker is not about perfection. It's all about connection. Go to my homepage. You can see it there.
For sure. So you have I saw there's a lot of traffic on your page. There's a lot of people asking you questions to get engaged with you. There are a lot of people who look forward in actually getting a TED talk from you. But then they are different in a class. Like if I teach in a classroom of 40 students, I know that there are 40 children who are of different cadre, who are of different caliber, who are of different skill set and need to be handled very cautiously in a very different manner. So like in a class of 40 students, even a teacher needs to understand that which student is of what caliber. How do we need to place them in a classroom and how do we need to work upon them? So when you have so many people on the audience and you want to make a difference as a speaker to each one of them, how do you actually identify that which audience is under which category? How do you categorize them and how do you actually counter the needs for what they have been coming to you?
Oh, yeah. You have the extrovert.
Yes.
There's two major groups. The extrovert and the introvert. Now, the extrovert can be as hard as the introvert to teach, because a lot of the extroverts think that they know it all and they're very good speakers, but they're not. Some of them are not, and some of the introverts are much better speakers when they get the tools. Now, when you get these tools like the speaking house, there's more to it than I just showed you. The speaking house, there's more to it in the speaking house that I just showed you. But people feel relieved. This is the 5 fundamentals. As long as I have them. When people are taught the skill of storytelling and remembered by the Batman, Robin, Joker, the 5 frame, the 5 frame. Yes. They are relieved. And there is a mass production in their head, in the brain starting. A lot of them I hear from them later after my workshop, and they send me stories. They just explode, and they say, "Oh, I couldn't sleep. I couldn't sleep right my personal story all night." So when you teach, it's a wonderful thing to teach, because when you teach people the skills how to storytell and the skills how to stand on stage, there's not so much to fear anyway. The only thing that I'm really challenged about, and that's extrovert as long as introverts, that is the volume of your voice. That is a problem in my workshop that that's the biggest problem, that's the strongest problem, that people are not, when they get on stage, they do not talk loud enough. And I see that again and again and again and again. The audience cannot hear them. And that's the thing that I teach a lot. You have to speak much louder than you think. And if there's a back wall, speak to the back wall. Your friend, go down to the back wall and make him a sign when he can hear you and when he cannot. I cannot hear you. Now I can hear you. It's so important that you can speak to the back wall. That's really the strongest challenge. Everybody. It's not storytelling. It's not how to make people feel. It's the volume of your voice.
But how do we understand? Because there is an audience who is sitting
make them
just a
scream.
meter. Okay.
Oh yeah. I go
So,
louder, louder, louder.
and they actually scream, and then they go back home, and they must be telling their family members that I screamed a lot today. I cannot speak for next 2 days. So brilliant. So I would like to know that where do you put in communication skills? How much do you put because you have been bullied in your childhood. I meet several students every day at school who have been bullied, and because of that they lack communication skills. They sometimes start fumbling, they sometimes start stuttering, and or they do not want to speak at all. They want to be the backbenchers in the classroom. They hate school, right? The teacher has to actually drag them out of the home and then start speaking. But what tips do you suggest to those students to actually come out of their shell and be a better spokesperson? What do you suggest to them? What are your tips for them?
Make them tell the experience. And make them tell the experience from stage. I had 400 meters, 500 meters to my school, elementary school. But that 500 meters was the longest meters in my life. My house, my home, my parents' home, the family house was right next to the school. They passed, the school track passed us going to the school. Now those 500 meters at elementary school, I learned how to run. And I made holes in the fence so I could run to school. Because there was always three guys. It started out in third grade or fourth grade. Three guys, they wanted to beat me off, either going to school or coming from school. Very fast, I became a very fast runner, and I became very good at high jumps because I had to high jump fences. Sometimes they got me. And one guy would hold one hand, the other guy would hold the other hand, and the third guy would punch me in my face. And I remember all the times, boom, boom, boom. I was trying to get, I really tried hard to get rid of them. And I remember that pounding feeling of that, boom, boom, that knock was going into my face.
Oh God.
And then one of the times I thought, whoa, what if I just pass out? What if I pretend? What if I act and just let me pass out? Maybe they will not beat me up anymore. But they didn't. They just started kicking me instead of hitting me in my face. They would take my school bag and piss in it. They would take my school bag and they would put dirt in it, water in it, but nothing stopped them. Then one day, one was again holding my hand and the third person was holding the other hand. And then the third person went around me and did a Nelson. And I remember the crack in my neck. And I remember the feeling in my hands because he was very big and very strong. So he had my neck pop. And I still have pain in my neck from that. Every morning I have to do exercises because that dude smashed my neck. Then my dad had enough. And he went to the principal and he went to the parents. And one teacher took the three guys and hanged them on the clothes hanger. And he told them, now you have to hang there for 10 minutes. And if you ever touch Asbjorn again, I'm going to kick the shit out of you. There it stopped. Now, about 15 years goes by, and I started in my 20s bodybuilding, karate, boxing, and I became big. I worked out 6 hours. I think I was around 28, and I went to the local disco, and there in the bar, mind you, I grew very slow, but at the end of elementary school, I grew very fast, and I'm tall now. I'm big, tall. I'm 195 and 93. Anyway, I saw him at the bar, and I looked down upon him. He looked up, and I looked down, and I looked down upon him as himself also.
Yeah.
And it just jumped out of my. I did not think, because they made my elementary school living hell. And I looked and I just thought, do you remember me? I was very mad. Yes, I do. And I had a tight t-shirt on. He could see my muscles. I'm not that big anymore. Anyway, you have two options. I'm going to count to 10. You have two options. Either you are going to serve me drinks all night long, and I drink a lot, and also to my friends. Or you're gonna step outside with me now, and I'm gonna beat the shit out of you. I'm gonna count to 10. 1, 2. So easily, right there, I could have become a bullier.
Yes.
I could have become one of them. It wasn't because of me. It was because of him. Because he answered, I will treat you guys with drinks all night long. Just to tell you how easily the bullied can become a bullier. And that's what I thought the next day. Wow. So easy, because if he had stepped outside, I would have kicked the living shit out of him. I met him again some years later, and I thanked him because he gave me that answer. And we went out to the same bar, and I gave drinks, and we became quite hammered. Yeah, that's the end of that story. But just, to show how easy you can fall into a trap yourself because of hatred. Do not let your hatred in your life overwhelm you. Do not let your hatred in your life overwhelm you.
So, what do you think that, I understand we given into our ambitions, aspiration, dreams and fantasies so easily, because whenever we get struck down, we want to get back and strike back, right? It's not very often that we want to hold our calm and we want to just see what goes by. But yes, I think at many point of life we have made this mistake, even as a student, even as an entrepreneur, even as a teacher. Sometimes I meet teachers who, where there are certain students, out of innocence, they talk shit about the teacher outside. And now that teacher wants to reprimand them and inside the classroom. So what she will do as a teacher, she would go against her morals, and then she will give them a very bad grading in the class, because she has already overheard the rumor about her. But then that is a chance for the teacher also to improve, to become actual guru for that student, to tell him that, you did bad with me, but then I'm not doing that bad with you. I'm not going to give in. So
exactly.
I think controlling that temptation is very important. So
it's very important.
And
very
so
important.
Now, as we are concluding this session, I would like to know, since we as an organization, we want to go out there and help budding entrepreneurs to learn and grow. What is the biggest learning you want them to take away from this very session?
Learn how to storytell, and learn how to personal storytell. See Kendall Haven on YouTube, Your Brain on Story. See Brennan Brown, the power of vulnerability. Just those two talks, Kendall Haven and BB, Brené Brown.
Okay, and where do all the people from India can reach out to you for your guidance and mentorship? I think most of us need it, and after this video, they are going to actually ask us this very question: how to reach out to you, where they can find you.
My homepage is this is hard. I have a big LinkedIn, but also it's Asbjørn Jensen. Asbjørn Jensen. Now, write down my homepage is hard. ASBJORN. Asbjørn. ASBJORN.
Yes.
And then speaks. Asbjornspeaks.com. Asbjornspeaks.com. That's my homepage.
I'm going to link this to the video. I'm going to pin it in the video for people to see and actually reach out to you, because not many a times we do read a lot of motivational books from the library in the school, but sometimes it takes a person to tell that story from his end for us to be actually motivated. Because I have taken, even if I read so many motivational books or novels, I don't know how much I take away from it. Sometimes I just read it for pleasure, and I don't take away anything from it. The next day I make the very same mistakes over and over again. So it's very important, and thank you so much. I got to learn personally a lot. This would be my first testimony for you, and I would attach that to the video, that how much I took away as a learning from this session. And you're a fantastic soul, means you're a brilliant soul.
Thank you.
So
You
modest
too. Thank you.
for someone who has been on the big screen, someone who has been in front of an audience. And please don't change ever. I hope to meet you in person soon, and someday I have a dream of meeting you when the COVID and the pandemic situation, the bars are
You've been
raised.
very kind. Thank you.
Yes.
I'm so happy. I'm so glad that you can use my stories and you can use my knowledge, and go to my YouTube and see you present the speaking house and use my tools. It's all out there, and you can use them all. My different inventions.
So I think I'll pin everything in the YouTube link when we release the premiere of this very episode. I'll be releasing everything on the YouTube channel. I will pin all the details there for every person to go out and watch those videos. And I have already taken down notes, and you can see here there is a full pages of notes which I was taking down the whole time. And thank you so much for your time. I hope you have a great day ahead. So it's midnight here now, and tomorrow would be a bright new day. And hopefully with a bright new day, there would be many new learnings which I would take away from you. And I'm sure I would implement it.
Thank you.
I'm at least confident.
Wonderful to meet you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Until next time. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Just call me again if you want to.
Sure.
I'm there for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.